to have time to prepare a bit more, but since I was not able to do that, I thought I might just show you my game with Magnus. I had some interesting moments, and I thought we could look at that and then a little bit about Max Euwe. So I'm white and Magnus was black. This was just now in London. So we played, again, more or less an opening that we've been playing against each other for some months now. All this has been played many times, but recently this move has become sort of fashionable, and this was already the fourth game that both of us have played here. But here for the first time he went rook c8, and he was originally playing knight b6, but he went rook c8, and here somehow I had difficulty concentrating as I was looking at various subtleties. And in some line, I thought it was important to do this, and I sort of carelessly did this. And after it took, I realized that I had actually fumbled the move order, and that white is actually in big trouble already. If you want to know why white's in big trouble and what looks like it could be a symmetrical position, it's simply that this bishop is staring at this pawn. Here I thought for close to an hour, either on this move or in this and the next move together. And finally I found what I thought was a way to save the game, which was to go here. ED4, and then C4. I thought the only chance was to try and liquidate all the queenside pawns. So he took, and I took with the knight because after bishop C4, bishop, we interpolated rook e8 a bit. After bishop c4, bishop b4, I have to take the pawn, or I can play, for instance, queen b3, a5 comes to the same thing, and takes. And then I thought black simply plays queen d8, and on the next move, knight c5. And he will take the d5 pawn, and I thought this didn't work for me. In fact, later on the computer simply pointed out d6, and it seems that I always counterattack on f7, and so it seems to be about equal. So this would have been a better move than what I did. So he played knight takes d5, knight takes d4, knight b4, and now the big point for white is that at least I have this move, knight f5, and I'm going to land something on d6. In some lines, knight h6 check is a threat, so it's actually kind of dangerous. Sorry, the queen is on e8, it's moved. And now he took, and I thought I had enough compensation for the pawn that I should be able to liquidate. Though I didn't immediately see what to do here after rook b8. It's possible something like queen c3, queen g3 and then queen c3 and rook e1. It should be possible to find counterplay like this. In fact, he had a better move with both of us had missed, rook c5, and after this it seems that white is worse. There's no, which is fair enough given that I didn't really play the opening brilliantly. But Magnus went for this move, and now in fact the whole point of my play comes. I go here. The first point is that rook c4. You want to guess what I should do? Okay. Knight h6, king h8, queen c4. And I don't, in fact, white's just winning here. The second problem is if bishop f5, I go knight d6, which is what happened in the game. And now his original idea was queen e6, knight takes c8, knight c5, bishop a3, knight b3, queen d8, queen c8. But what I had seen much earlier, and what Magnus saw only when he got to this position, was that white wins after rook d1. So that means that black in fact has to go for the queen d8. And now I could take the bishop on f5. Again, white is renewing his threat, knight h6 wins. So black has to decide how he's going to defend this. The first thing is knight f6 or queen f6. But this endgame is actually worse for black. At the very least, it's a lot of suffering. So Magnus went for f6. And of course, I nearly went rook d1. It's crazy to go rook a6 and make a draw because even if you can't work everything out, there's no risk in trying. But so I began to see that it's very complicated for him. If rook c7, check this move. But I was actually getting a bit worried because I hadn't initially seen what to do after the bishop moves. But in fact, Magnus pointed out immediately afterwards that the queen just comes back. And now black is busted. If he takes, then bishop takes f6. And then rook d8, winning the queen. So the rook will go to d8, winning the queen. So he went for a brave try, which is rook c2. I don't know if there's something simpler, but by now knight h6 seemed to be called for, so went for that. Queen g4 check, bishop g7. And my problem was that after rook d7, queen d7, queen d7, rook b2, I couldn't see a way to win this rook. So I can bring his king out and then check. But there isn't a way to fork the rook. And I was afraid that if the rook got back to the 8th rank, it would be like a fortress. The problem is also when I make some move like queen a6, it's difficult for the black rook to go back. And I control the e2 square, but he finds the only other way to get back. And now the rook heads back to safety. So I went queen e6 check, king f8, rook d7. Queen f8. And here I'm starting to miss quite a few wins. The first one was this one, queen c8, queen e7, rook b2, rook g7, and what escaped my attention initially was simply that now the rook defends. So that's very important. The second win I missed was here. That white should simply cut off the rook. So we got here after some wandering, but white should just get here and cut off the rook. And there's no real defense to queen c7. And if rook e2, what's very nice is bishop e7 against cutting off the rook, and now rook d8 is going to win. But somehow I got here. He also kept finding all these only moves. I gave a check. He went here. I had to go back. Came back, and then we just sort of bailed out into an ending like this. Where black had more or less solved all his problems. But I realized that it was still possible to torture black for a while, because he can't resolve his problems in any way. I mean, if he just has one weakness, he can try and swap it. But here he's stuck with this structure for the rest of the game. So I felt at least I could try. I wasn't sure if it was winning or not, but there seemed no harm in trying. So something like this happened. And it took me a few seconds to realize that queen c7 check was going to win the rook. So I played g3 just never to have any checks again. And it's difficult to say if this ending is won or not. But white's plan basically consists of the following. To get this battery going, and then at a certain moment to force black to choose whether he can stay on g6 or not. If the queen goes back like this, then queen f5 and some bishop h6 tactics will come. If the queen goes this way, then queen f7 defending the pawn, but black is no longer able to defend this bishop with his queen. I don't know if it's a forced win, but it seemed very unpleasant. In the end, we wandered into something like this, where his rook could no longer defend this pawn on f6, and I won. But I simply don't know if the ending is won or not. But at least it was a very important game in the London tournament, which just finished. So, I mean, he won as always anyway. But at least we could drink for a while. So.